Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another episode of the Catskull Academy, the series that aims to give you the very best start possible in EVE Echoes. Today we're going to be looking at RIGS, so I'm going to be answering the questions: what are RIGS, and how do you fit them to your ship? How do you make RIGS, and what are the relevant skills if you decide that that's something that you want to get involved in? Now, if you do enjoy this video, let me know by hitting a like on it, subscribe to the channel for all things EVE Echoes, and ding that notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Let me know what topics you want me to cover in future videos, either by commenting down below or finding me on the social media channels along the bottom of the screen, and if you want to go the extra mile to help support this channel, you can do so by joining me on Patreon. Details are on screen now. That said and done, let's talk about RIGS. So first things first, the question, what are they? Well, essentially RIGS are semi-permanent upgrades that can be fitted to your ship. Unlike modules like weapons or shield boosters and that kind of thing, a rig is destroyed if you try to take it out, so you do need to really consider what rigs you want to fit to a ship before you do so, otherwise you're going to end up spending a lot of ISK on chopping and changing. Now, rigs come in two individual types. If I go into the fitting here on this Coercer Navy issue and open up the menu here, you can see that the Coercer Navy issue has 4 high slots, 3 low slots, 3 mid slots, and then 2 of each of the rig types there on the end. Now, the curved brackets represent power grid rigs, and the square brackets represent mechanical rigs. What's the difference between a mechanical rig and a power grid rig? Well, I can't honestly think of a good way to describe it accurately, so I'm just going to say that power grid rigs have a tendency towards active modules. They tend to affect your weapons or your shield boosters or your armor extenders, that kind of thing, whereas the mechanical rigs tend to be much more involved in the basic operation of the ship, things like the ship's velocity, its cargo hold space, or its tracking abilities, that kind of thing. Now, ultimately, those two types of rig do vary from ship to ship. You'll see that some here have 2 rig slots for each, some have 3, and it's up to you what you might decide to put in them. So, looking at the Coercer Navy issue here, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to showcase fitting some of those rigs and actually look at the kind of benefits that they can do in a full-on demonstration. So of course, when you are looking at the ship here, if you want to fit rigs, you tap on the spanner at the bottom here where it says rigs, and it takes you to the rig fitting menu. Now again, you can see that you've got the circular power grid rigs on the left, and the square mechanical rigs on the right. Now I've got a couple of power grid rigs that I want to fit to this Coercer Navy issue that are to do with the lasers. So let's have a look here. You can see the offense at the moment is 121.94. Let's have a look at those power grid rigs. I have a laser collision accelerator, which gives a damage bonus of 12.5%, and a laser burst aerator, which reduces the activation time of the lasers by 7.5%. Now, you'll see at the bottom here, it says penalty: using more than one of this type of module or rig on a single ship will result in a penalty to the final effect. What that basically means, if we go back to the laser collision accelerator, is that if you were to put 2 laser collision accelerators on, you're not going to get 12.5% plus 12.5%. You'll actually get 12.5% plus probably about 9%. The second one is not as effective, and that works across the different numbers. If you put a laser collision accelerator 1 on and a laser collision accelerator rig 3 on, for example, they are still going to have negative effects. They're not going to be as good as the statistics page would have you believe. So what we do here is we make sure that we try not to fit 2 of the same rig type where possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit the laser collision accelerator into the first slot here, and it'll give you this warning that once it's removed, any previous rigs will be destroyed. So that one's fitted in there, and if we have a look, the DPS should have already increased, 132.80, and then for that second power grid rig, let's fit in that laser burst aerator, which again decreases the activation time of these lasers. This is now sitting at 143.57. That is quite a considerable increase in this ship's DPS, and that's purely based on 2 rigs that were very, very easy for me to make, very quick and simple to make, and have massively increased the damage output of this ship. So you can already see rigs are something definitely worth looking at. That said, I don't want to just show the Coercer here, so I am going to showcase a couple of other ships as well, and just showcase what kind of rigs you can use on them. I'm beginning to feel that I can't actually record a video anymore without mentioning my ever-growing fleet of Thrashers, so here we are, we're going to roll with it. Apparently it's tradition now. Here is my Thrasher fleet issue. As you can see, 153.14 DPS, which I feel is quite extensive, especially since she can kick this at up to 30 kilometers away. That's mainly due to a full complement of Republic fleet small strike cannons fitted into those top slots. But these guys at 11 megawatts per cannon soak up an awful lot of juice. In fact, if you were to take this build and put it on a Thrasher fleet issue as standard, even with 5 levels in destroyer engineering, it's not going to fit. And that's where our rigs come in. So if we drop down to the rigs here and have a look at the mechanical rigs, you can see that I have equipped her with 2 ancillary power grid routers. These do not have a penalty for going in complement with each other, and indeed up the power grid by 7.5% each. So this ship has 15% larger power grid than others of its type would, purely thanks to the rigs. And you can see actually, if I go back and have a look at the power grid, even with those 2 rigs on, this still uses 64 out of 64 power grid units. As I said, she's a hungry girl. Now, if we look into the power grid rigs, down here on the left-hand side, you can see I have fitted a cannon burst aerator, which decreases the activation time, makes the cannons fire faster, and I've also popped in a collision accelerator there for a 12.5% flat increase of damage. Now, as a little tip, when you're looking at a ship and deciding what kind of rigs to fit it for combat, have a look at what the basic stats are. Ultimately, you want to go for ones that aren't necessarily part of it. If you have damage bonus rigs, go for activation time rigs. And if you've got skill bonuses to activation time, go for damage rigs. That usually nets you a bigger overall DPS increase. Now, with the Thrasher fleet issue, of course, we've got optimal range, we've got cannon damage, tracking speed. So the one I did want to go for there was the activation time to get them to go a little bit faster. But as we've mentioned, putting 2 of those in has diminishing returns, so the flat damage one seemed the better option for me there. I'm quite happy with that. To me, that is a very powerful ship. I'm soloing tier 7 anomalies and encounters with it. I can't complain. Now, whereas the Coercer Navy issue and Thrasher fleet issue are both shiny toys for me to fly around blowing up other people's ships, the Probe Covert Ops is a much more subdued workhorse. This is designed for me to sneak through nullsec to and from market, carrying cargo holds full of lucrative loot. Ultimately then, for me, the reason I chose a Covert Ops probe is because, first of all, I can fit that Covert Ops cloaking device so that I run less risk, and secondly, because of the cargo hold space. If you have a look at the ship normally, it has a cargo hold naturally of 1,500 meters cubed. For every level you have in Frigate Command bonus, you gain an additional 5% cargo hold capacity, up to a maximum of 25%. As you'll see if I go down into the mechanical rigs here, I've rigged in 2 cargo hold optimization rigs. 2 of these each, there are no penalties for them stacking, and they each give a 50% increase to the cargo hold capacity. That's a whopping 100% increase, which, as you'll see, if we drop out here, takes this ship up to a whopping 3,750 meters cubed. Yeah, I've taken every item in my item hanger, dropped it into the Probe Covert Ops' hold here, and I'm still nowhere near to filling it up. That is the power of these rigs. Now, of course, if you are going into mining, for example, or if you want to go into big hauling, you might just want one of those cargo hold optimization rigs. I really can't talk today. And one warp core optimizer. This means it is harder to lock you down. Now, some combat ships like to have these on as well, just so you can whiz around and not worry about someone disrupting your ship and stopping you from warping away. Very, very useful rig there, certainly for any industrial ships. Get on the market and buy those now. Now that I've shown you how fragtastically awesome rigs are, I'm sure a ton of you are chomping at the bit to learn how to build them yourself. So, here we go. Now, like everything in EVE Echoes, in order to build it, you're going to need 2 things. First of all, a blueprint, and secondly, the materials. Now, blueprints for rigs come from Inquisitor anomalies, so when you're flying around in space, keep your overview open on cosmic anomalies, and if you spot any that say Inquisitor, jump to them, clear out all the rats, loot the cargo holds at the end, and you will find some blueprints, like for example here, we have a Warp Core Optimizer blueprint. Now, if you scroll down on one of these, you can see all of the requirements to build it here. Tech level, obviously the tech level that you need to be at in order to build it. Manufacturing time, manufacturing cost, material efficiency, and time efficiency, that kind of thing there. Salvaged part requirements are then the actual raw materials you will need to put this rig together. In this case, 107 charred microcircuits and 21 contaminated nanite polymers. Now, in order to get those, you need salvage. Now, salvage comes from the wreckage of all kinds of different ships. If you're flying around and doing various different combat anomalies, you will find tons of different wreckage. Obviously, as you can see on screen here, Amar ship debris, Caldari ship debris, Galente ship debris, and Minmatar ship debris. And if you tap on any one of these, it will tell you what you will get for reprocessing that. Charred microcircuits, 5.7, and contaminated nanite polymers, 1.5, if I reprocess all of those. Here, if I go to the Galente, you'll see that Galente give you smashed trigger units and contaminated Lorentz fluid. Caldari ship debris, can't say debris today, gives you defective current pumps and charred microcircuits, and Amar ship debris gives you smashed trigger units and conductive polymers. So if we were to reprocess one of those, for example, it'll destroy that ship debris and give me the parts instead, as you can now see on screen. So once you have gathered up all of the parts you needed, so let's have a look again at the warp core optimizer, we need 107 charred microcircuits and 21 contaminated nanite polymers. Do we have those? Yes, we do. Those are on screen right there in the middle. Let's grab those and put them together. So if we open up the main menu whilst docked to the station and go to industry, you'll have manufacturing jobs here on the left hand side. Tap on the plus arrow there and you can scroll through all of these different bits on the left hand side here to find what you're looking for. Now obviously you've got ships, mid slots, low slots, combat rigs and engineering rigs. They do call them combat rigs here. They're not necessarily combat related, but I suppose that is one way of thinking of it actually. If only I'd seen that at the beginning of this video. Anyway, we're going to look at the engineering rigs here, which I keep minimizing, and go down to the warp core optimizer, which is lit up like a Christmas tree. It's lit up because we have the materials for it, or rather, we have the blueprint. Once you've got the blueprint here on screen, you can see the salvaged materials, and you can see what you've got in comparison to what you need. If you have multiple blueprints, down here at the bottom, you can actually slide up and down how many of those you want to build. So if you've got 12 blueprints, you can build 6 of them, or 8 of them, or just 1 of them. Entirely up to you. That's by tapping down here where it says manufacturing quantity. Finally, once you're happy with everything there on screen, check the bottom right to have a look at the time cost, 28 minutes 30, and the ISK cost of 15,000. I'm quite happy with those, so I'm going to hit start job. That will now activate and take a little bit of my ISK, and there we go. That is now that warp core optimizer starting to be built, and in about 28.5 minutes, that'll be ready for me to either take to market, sell to a friend, or fit to one of my ships. Now, like with everything else in EVE Echoes, you can of course use skills to make yourself more productive at rig manufacture. You'll find these under Industrial Technology here on the right hand side, under Production, and then by scrolling right the way down to nearly the very bottom. Here you can see we have rig manufacture, and as you train this up, you will increase both your rig manufacturing material efficiency and your rig manufacturing time efficiency. Now in shorthand, that means that you'll manufacture your rigs faster and using fewer materials, which just makes you more profitable if you're doing this as a business to sell it on the side. It also means you're just using less stuff and you have to go out and grind less if, like me, you're just using it to help yourself build rigs when you need them. Now, one of the other things that I'd trained this for was the hope that I would be able to manufacture multiple rigs at once. In fact, if you look at any of the other manufacturing skills here, for example, industrial ship manufacture, at the bottom, it increases your max manufacturing jobs by +2. That doesn't happen with rig manufacture, which I'm really quite sour about. It means that even with rig manufacture all the way up to expert level 5, you still only have 1 manufacturing slot capable of going at a time, unless you come all the way up to something like frigate manufacture and get that to level 5 as well, which... to me, that's annoying. Come on, devs, get on that. I want additional manufacturing jobs available for me to make rigs. I don't want to have to sit here and do them all one at a time like that, 1 stack at a time, but there we go. That's how it is. If anything changes, I'll let you know in a future video. I'll get nice and excited about that. Anyway, folks, that really does cover everything that I wanted to say to you about rigs. That's how, what they are, how to fit them, what they do, how you make them, and what the relevant skills for manufacturing them in bulk are. These things are super easy to make. Anyone can do it. You don't need the skills, they just make you slightly better at it. Anyone can do this. They're super easy, quite cheap, and they sell for an absolute boatload on the market right now. So get on that and start making yourself a bucket load of ISK. Anyway, folks, let me know down below. What do you think about rigs? Are you using them on ships? Have you got a particular ship that you think rigs out really well, or a particular build that you think's really interesting? Let me know down below, or come show me some awesome screenshots on Twitter. Add in the Catskull Cartel hashtag of #CSKL, and I will come have a look, comment on your stuff, and let you know what I think. Otherwise, folks, thank you for watching this all the way to the end. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.